My husband took his mistress to a hotel. I immediately sent the room number to his mother. It was not a guess. It was a certainty. I had seen the reservation confirmation pop up on our shared laptop screen earlier that morning, an innocuous email from the Grand Oasis Suites, addressed to him, but with a familiar, sickly sweet perfume ad for couples getaways that screamed affair. The room number, 703, was right there. A penthouse suite, naturally. He always did have expensive taste. Before we check into this drama, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. You don't want to miss the explosive moment when the truth checks in, and you certainly don't want to miss the new stories of justice we bring you every single day. Hit that subscribe button, and let's begin. My name is Savannah Hayes. I am 45 years old, a renowned architect, and for the last 20 years, I have built not just buildings, but a life with my husband, David. He runs a successful construction firm, one I helped him establish, one I brought clients to. We have 2 beautiful teenage daughters, a sprawling home I designed myself, and a reputation as the city's power couple. My life was a meticulously engineered structure, every beam placed with care, every foundation solid. But the email was the earthquake. His mistress, a young, ambitious junior architect from his own firm named Chloe Jenkins, was not a secret. Not to me. I had seen the lingering glances, the late nights at the office, the new, expensive jewelry David had bought her for being such a dedicated employee. I had even, on a few occasions, endured her smug, knowing smiles at company functions. I had watched. I had observed. Like any good architect, I had studied the cracks. I had seen the structural weaknesses in my marriage long before they threatened to bring the whole thing down. I had simply been waiting for the moment when David, in his arrogant self-absorption, would finally bring the entire edifice crashing down himself. And the Grand Oasis Suites, room 703, at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, was that moment. The hook wasn't the email. It was the absolute, unshakable certainty that this was not just an affair. This was a declaration. A public statement of disrespect that demanded an equally public, and far more devastating, response. I picked up my phone. My first call wasn't to David. It wasn't to Chloe. It was to David's mother, Brenda. "Brenda, it's Savannah," I said, my voice calm, almost serene. My hands, which had designed skyscrapers, did not tremble. "I need your help. David has a surprise for you. And for his father, and his uncles, and your pastor, and everyone in the church." "A surprise?" Brenda's voice was sharp, immediately suspicious. She had never liked me. I was too independent, too ambitious. I wasn't the sweet, deferential wife she wanted for her golden boy. "Yes," I continued, "he's at the Grand Oasis Suites, room 703. He's celebrating a very important new partnership. I think you should all go. Immediately. Bring a camera. You won't want to miss this." I didn't wait for her response. I hung up. My next calls were not to my family. My family knew. They had seen David's escalating disrespect, and they had seen my quiet, simmering rage. I needed a different kind of ally. I called a discreet, highly respected private investigator named Marcus Thorne. "Marcus, it's Savannah Hayes," I said. "I have a job for you. A very important job. And it starts immediately." "Savannah," Marcus's voice was always low, efficient. He knew my work. I had hired him before for sensitive corporate due diligence. "What's the situation?" "My husband, David Hayes, is currently in room 703 of the Grand Oasis Suites. He's with his mistress, Chloe Jenkins. And in about 10 minutes, his entire family, led by his mother, Brenda, will be at that door. I need you to be there. I need video. I need audio. I need every single second of what's about to unfold documented. And Marcus, I need you to find me a very good divorce lawyer. The best. Someone who specializes in high net worth asset protection, and someone who understands construction fraud." This was the counterattack. It wasn't just about exposing David's infidelity. It was about dismantling his entire empire, brick by fraudulent brick. For months, I had been building a case. Not against David's affair, which I considered a symptom, not the disease. The disease was his escalating financial recklessness. He had been taking on increasingly risky projects, borrowing against our joint assets, and covering his lavish lifestyle, and Chloe's, with questionable accounting. I, the architect who understood every line of a blueprint, had seen the structural integrity of our finances begin to crumble. But there was a hidden secret suspense that gnawed at me. David wasn't just greedy. He was desperate. His desperation felt deeper than just funding an affair. It felt like something larger, something more sinister, was happening behind the polished facade of his construction firm. I remembered a conversation, weeks ago. He had been on the phone, screaming, "The permits, Robert. I need those permits. If we don't start the foundation on the Bellevue project by Friday, the whole thing goes sideways. They're threatening to pull funding." The Bellevue project. A massive, multi-million-dollar residential complex. I had been excited for him, even designed some early conceptual renders for him as a surprise. But then he had suddenly told me the client had gone another way. No, David had just lied. As I waited, my heart hammering, for Marcus's confirmation, I pulled up the city's planning and zoning records on my tablet. I cross-referenced them with environmental impact statements, property deeds, and even geological surveys. My architectural brain, trained to see flaws and strengths in the very ground a building stood on, began to work. The Bellevue project. A vast, marshy area on the city's outskirts. Environmental protected wetlands. A huge risk. A place where foundations could literally sink. And David was building there. A chilling thought occurred to me. David wasn't just an unfaithful husband. He was building his empire on a literal swamp. And he was trying to use my reputation, my designs, my name, to give it credibility. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus. "I'm here, Savannah. Hidden camera is live." And, wow. You weren't kidding. The entire Hayes clan is here. And Brenda looks like she's about to spontaneously combust. She just threw a Bible at the door. My husband froze. David was on the other side of that door, with his mistress. And outside, his mother, Brenda, the matriarch who preached about moral rectitude, was having a public meltdown, surrounded by half the congregation. The hotel hallway was about to become a very public confessional. "They're screaming his name," Marcus whispered, his voice tinged with morbid fascination. "Someone just yelled adulterer." "Oh, David is in serious trouble, Savannah." "No, Marcus," I said, a cold, predatory smile spreading across my face. "He's not in trouble. He's about to be served. And I want the first course to be the collapse of his carefully constructed lie." I sent a final text to Marcus. "When the door opens, look for the Bellevue Project folder. I think you'll find it illuminating." I sat in the silence of my home study, the polished mahogany desk cool beneath my hands. The only sound was the low, tinny audio feed from Marcus's earpiece, a stark contrast to the chaos it was transmitting. I was not there to scream or cry. I was an architect at a demolition site, observing the initial blast, waiting for the dust to clear so I could analyze the true damage. Get back." David's voice, a panicked, strangled sound. David, you open this door." That was Brenda, my mother-in-law, her voice a righteous, hysterical shriek that I knew all too well. "Open it in the name of the Lord." "This is insane," a man's low rumble, "my father." Savannah was right. "He's a fool." "Brenda, you're making a scene," another man grumbled, David's father, a man who only cared about appearances. "I'll make a scene," Brenda screamed. "He has brought shame on this family. He's in there with that Jezebel. Pastor, pray for him." The pastor began a loud, rambling prayer for this fallen son right there in the hallway. It was a grotesque, three-ring circus, and I had sent every single performer their ticket. The hotel door finally clicked open. The screaming stopped, replaced by a wave of collective gasps. Through the feed, I heard David stammer, "Ma. Dad, what are you all doing here?" He was wearing a hotel robe. "Who is SHE?" Brenda roared, pushing past him. I heard a woman's sharp, indignant cry, "Chloe. Get your hands off me." "David, who are these people?" "David," my father's voice, cold as a steel beam. "You have 5 seconds to explain yourself before your brother Michael explains it for you." Michael, my brother, was a 6'4" ex-Marine who did not appreciate his sister being disrespected. I heard a thud, a grunt, and Chloe screaming, "He hit him." "Michael, stand down," my father commanded. "He's not worth the jail time." "Not yet. This is a misunderstanding," David yelped. "A misunderstanding?" Brenda's voice was now weeping. "I see it, David. The champagne. The bed. She bewitched you. This harlot bewitched my son." "I bewitched no one." Chloe's voice, sharp and surprisingly strong. "He's with me. He loves me. He's leaving her. Tell them, David. Tell them how you can't stand your cold, sterile, career-obsessed wife." A dead, cold silence. In that moment, I knew. This wasn't just an affair. This was a plan. Chloe was not a fling, she was the replacement. Then, Brenda did the one thing I had counted on. Her loyalty, which was only to her son, turned viciously on the easiest target. You homewrecker. You trapped him." I heard a scuffle, a slap, and Chloe screaming in pain. While the two families were absorbed in this domestic melodrama, I heard the faint click, click, click of a camera phone. A text message from Marcus popped up on my screen. "They're all fighting. David's briefcase is open on the desk. Going for the Bellevue folder now. It's thick. David, you will leave this harlot and come home right now," Brenda commanded. I can't," David stammered. "Chloe, Ma, you don't understand." "I understand," my father's voice boomed, cutting through the chaos. "That you have just destroyed your life. You have destroyed your children's home. Savannah will be hearing from our lawyers. Michael, let's go. We're done here." The sound of my family leaving, calm and dignified, was a death knell. Brenda's family was left behind in the wreckage, screaming, crying, and blaming. The door slammed. The pastor was, audibly, hyperventilating. Another text from Marcus. "Got it. Clear shots of every page. Financials, permits, geological surveys. It's all here. And Savannah, there's a signature page. He's forged an engineer's signature on the soil stability report." My blood turned to ice. "Marcus," I said, my voice low and hard, "get out of there. Send me everything. Now." For the next 2 hours, I sat in my silent study, a fortress of my own design, and watched the files upload. The hotel drama was a smokescreen. This was the real crime. This was the hidden secret suspense that had been gnawing at me. As an architect, I read blueprints like novels. I read geological surveys like poetry. What I saw on my screen made me physically ill. David wasn't just building on wetlands. He was building on a lie. The geological survey he had submitted to the city was a complete fabrication. The original report, which I saw buried in the file, had unstable and high risk of liquefaction stamped in red on every page. The soil couldn't support the weight of a 2-story building, let alone the 30-story luxury tower he had promised his investors. The new report, the one he'd filed, was a forgery. And the signature he had forged, it was that of a respected engineer, a man who had been dead for 2 years. But then I saw it. The final, devastating act of betrayal. To get the permits fast-tracked, he needed a lead architect's stamp of approval on the structural integrity plans. He had used mine. He had lifted my digital signature and my official seal from a previous, legitimate project and stamped it onto the Bellevue blueprints. My name. My reputation. My entire professional legacy. He had tied it all to a 30-story death trap built on a swamp, all to keep his mistress in penthouse suites and to pay off the massive, secret debts I now saw riddling his financial projections. He hadn't just cheated on me. He had framed me. If that building ever failed, and it would fail, it wouldn't be just his company that went down. It would be me. I would be the one facing criminal charges. I would be the one who lost my license. I finally understood his desperation. The hotel. The arrogance. He needed me out of the picture. He needed me to be the crazy, vindictive wife so that when the Bellevue project inevitably collapsed, he could pin it all on me. He could claim I faked the reports, that I forged the signatures in a fit of jealous rage. The sterile, career-obsessed wife was his scapegoat. He's not just an adulterer, I whispered to the empty room. He's trying to bury me under his building. My counterattack shifted. This was no longer a divorce. This was a war for my survival. I picked up the phone and called Elias Thorne, the most ruthless corporate lawyer in the city. Elias, I said, it's Savannah Hayes. I need to retain your services. And I need to schedule an emergency, ex-parte meeting with the State Attorney General's office and the City Planning Commission. Tomorrow morning. Savannah, Elias's voice was cautious. That's a very big bomb to drop. What's the payload? Construction fraud. Forgery. Reckless endangerment. And a conspiracy to frame me for it. I'm sending you the files now. You'll find my forged signature on page 42 of the structural plans. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. I'll clear my schedule. Who is the target? My husband, I said. David Hayes. While I was preparing for legal war, David and Brenda were attempting damage control. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Savannah, you have to listen to me. What you saw was not what it looked like. Your family overreacted. We can fix this. Don't do anything crazy. Another text, this time from Brenda. You did this. You aired our laundry. You drove my son to this with your coldness. You will regret humiliating my family. You will regret it. I looked at the messages. They still thought this was about an affair. They were still trying to gaslight me, to blame me. They were huddled in their house, plotting how to spin the social fallout, completely oblivious to the legal and financial apocalypse I was about to unleash. I didn't reply. I just forwarded the threatening text from Brenda to my new lawyer. The next morning, David would go to his construction site, still believing he was in control. His investors, his board, his political contacts, they all thought he was a genius. They had no idea that I, his wife, the architect, was about to pull the master blueprint on his entire fraudulent life. The house of cards was about to fall. And I was the one who was going to push it. The emergency meeting of the City Planning Commission was not held in a public forum. At the insistence of the Attorney General, it was convened in a secure, soundproofed room in the City Hall's basement, a place where careers were quietly dismantled. It was 9 a.m. I sat at one end of the long, polished table. On my left was Elias Thorne, my lawyer. On my right was Marcus Thorne and his damning video and audio evidence. Across from us sat the commission members, the city attorney, and the state attorney general himself. Their faces were grim. They had already reviewed the files I sent. Dr. Hayes, the Attorney General began, his voice heavy, the evidence you have provided is staggering. A forged signature from a deceased engineer. Your own forged seal on structural plans. And a geological survey that can only be described as a work of fiction. He is building a 30-story tower on land that cannot support it, gentlemen, I stated, my voice echoing in the quiet room. The Bellevue project is not a building. It is a mass casualty event waiting to happen. He didn't just commit fraud, He has endangered the lives of every future resident, every worker, and every citizen who walks past that site. Where is Mr. Hayes now? The city attorney asked. He is on site, I replied. He's breaking ground today. He's hosting his investors, his political allies, he's even invited the press. He thinks it's his coronation. The Attorney General looked at his watch. The arrogance is breathtaking. Ms. Hayes, your reputation is, of course, completely cleared. We have your testimony, your verified timeline, and the clear evidence of forgery. We are issuing a stop work order and multiple warrants as we speak. Thank you, General, I said, standing up. But if you don't mind, I have one more stop to make. I believe a few of my colleagues are waiting for me. The Bellevue construction site was a spectacle. A large, white tent was set up on the muddy ground. Champagne was flowing. A jazz band was playing. David stood on a small stage, a golden shovel in his hand, his face beaming. He had recovered from the hotel incident. He was a master of spinning his own narrative. I saw Chloe, standing in the back, her face a mask of smug triumph. She thought she had won. I even saw Brenda, my mother-in-law, dressed in her Sunday best, looking proud. They had all regrouped, believing the family drama was over, and that I, the hysterical wife, had been silenced. They had no idea. I walked into the tent, not from the main entrance, but from the side, my hard hat on, a rolled set of blueprints under my arm. I was joined by Elias, Marcus, and two men who were definitely not architects. David was mid-speech. And that is why the Bellevue is more than a building. It is a testament to the future. A future built on a solid foundation. That's a lie. My voice, amplified by the microphone I'd taken from the sound booth, boomed across the tent. The music screeched to a halt. Every head turned. David froze. His smile, the golden shovel, his entire world, it all just stopped. His face went from beaming pride to a sickly, pale white. My husband froze, for the second, and final, time. Savannah, what are you doing here? He stammered, his eyes darting to the investors, to his mother, to Chloe. I'm just correcting the record, David, I said, walking calmly to the stage. As the lead architect of record for this project, you do have my forged signature on the plans, don't you? I feel it's my duty to inform your investors of the truth. This is not the time or place, he hissed, his eyes burning with pure hatred. You are not welcome here. You're right. No one is, I said. I unrolled my blueprint. But it wasn't a blueprint. It was the original, damning geological survey, which I had blown up to poster size. The words high risk of liquefaction and unstable were visible to everyone in the room. This, I announced to the silent, horrified crowd, is the real soil report for the ground you are currently standing on. The one my husband paid to have buried. The one he forged a dead man's signature to replace. A wave of panic rippled through the investors. He is building a 30-story tower on a swamp, gentlemen, I continued, my voice ringing with absolute authority. And to do it, he forged my name, my professional seal, to structural plans that are not just fraudulent, they are criminally negligent. She's lying. Chloe shrieked from the back. She's a vindictive, jealous wife. He's leaving her, and she can't stand it. Am I? I asked. Then I suppose the men from the Attorney General's office, the State Licensing Board, and the FBI, who are currently surrounding this tent, are just here for the champagne. As if on cue, the exits were blocked by uniformed officers. The jazz music was replaced by the low, calm voices of agents directing people to stay put. David didn't run. He just deflated. The charming, powerful man disappeared, leaving a hollow, terrified shell. David Hayes, one of the agents said, stepping onto the stage. You are under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, and reckless endangerment. Chloe Jenkins, another agent, called out. You are also under arrest as a co-conspirator. Brenda Hayes, a third agent, said, walking over to my mother-in-law, whose face was a mask of disbelief. "You are being detained for witness tampering and your involvement in the conspiracy." It was a clean sweep. A public justice. I had not just exposed him, I had allowed him to build his own stage, invite his own audience, and pay for the catering at his own execution. The resolution was absolute. The Bellevue project was condemned, a half-dug monument to David's greed. His company, built on lies and my money, imploded, and he and his co-conspirators were found guilty. Facing a mountain of evidence, Marcus's hotel footage, the forged documents, my own testimony, David, Chloe, and Brenda all received long prison sentences. They lost their money, their status, their freedom. Everything. But my legacy was just beginning. The trial had exposed the deep, systemic corruption in the city's planning department, the very corruption David had exploited. I didn't just go back to designing buildings. I ran for office. Using my own money and my new, unassailable public reputation, I ran for a seat on the City Planning Commission, the very board I had exposed. I won in a landslide. My new purpose wasn't just to build beautiful structures, it was to ensure that the foundations of our city, the laws, the ethics, the very ground we build on, were no longer for sale. I lead the commission that is now redeveloping the Bellevue wetlands, not as a luxury death trap, but as the Savannah Hayes Nature Preserve and Center for Sustainable Architecture. It is a public park, a research center, and a testament to the idea that true strength isn't about how high you build, but about how honestly you lay the foundation. They tried to frame me. They tried to use my name to bury their crimes. So, I took my name, and I put it on the side of a building that will stand long after theirs have crumbled to dust. What this story teaches us is that you should never, ever, underestimate the architect. She knows exactly where the structural weaknesses are, and she knows exactly how to bring the whole building down. If you were inspired by Savannah's victory, make sure you hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of justice, where the ones who build the foundation get the final say. We'll see you in the next one.